So, can you do it all in the same place, the ceremony and the reception?
Oh, I like jumped ahead, didn't I?
A little bit.
I already said you could.
Yeah, you said
I already
you could.
gave you the answer.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
What if the venue only has one space?
That does happen a lot, actually, I feel like.
It does. There's a lot more of those venues than people would really think.
Yeah. Or they might have like two spaces, but maybe the ceremony or one of the spaces is outside and they don't have like a backup plan.
Right.
So then in that case, you really have to talk to them about a flip. And who's going to execute that flip? Do they have the staff? Is catering? Is a planner? Like who is?
And for those of us that are not wedding planners, what's a flip?
Oh, so that is where you will have the ceremony in the space, and then everybody will leave and like go to cocktail hour in a separate area. And then while that's cocktail hour is happening, that ceremony space will become your reception space. So typically, how it works is like, you might have a big room and maybe you have like drapery down the center or something like that. So you have your ceremony, everyone goes to the other side of the drapery and has their cocktail hour. And while that's happening, the tables are coming out from somewhere else, kind of being dragged out to that main space. And then everything's kind of set in that cocktail hour. In that instance, you definitely need 60 minutes for cocktail hour. Can't do a short guy if you're doing a flip.
I did a flip with you one time.
You did?
At an uptown venue.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It's just a little extra madness.
It's stressful.
I'd say that with a flip, the biggest thing to keep in mind is if you have a band. I think that's when it really becomes...
This one had a band.
I think that's really when it becomes the hardest because bands typically need a couple hours of setup time. It's impossible if you have a stage. I mean, you can do it. It's just that the stage is going to be a part of your ceremony setup in some way because you can't set a stage in an hour.
Right.
But I would say with a band, if you're planning to do a flip before you hire the band, make sure you talk to them about that.
Man, not even related to that. I remember that wedding so well because at that wedding, you were flipping a room and the band went and ate your and your assistants, not me, but your assistants' food.
Do you remember that I was also like 7.5 months pregnant at that wedding?
Yeah.
And then they ate my food.
And you only eat vegetarian, so it's like...
And then they ate my food and then I literally almost started crying.
Yeah, that was bad.
I also dropped the cake stand on my toe at that wedding.
That's
Remember,
right.
I had a bruise on my toe
That's
for
right.
like a year and a half.
I had to run out and get you food.
And I slammed my fingers in the doors. That was a rough wedding.
Yeah, that was a rough wedding.
Actually, nothing went wrong except for to me.
Yeah, true. It was a beautiful wedding.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so crazy.
Yeah, it was just you.
Just behind the scenes, myself.
Yep.
But the flip was perfect.
The flip was perfect.
And we had like 15 minutes to spare.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just not to eat.
Just not to eat. Well, we could have eaten, but anyways.
Right. Anyways, sidebar. So what are the pros and cons of having it in one place versus another? I know you kind of hit a few of these.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have it's the same. It's like the opposite of the other problems, right? But you don't have all that movement. Everything is easier for you, for your guests, for your vendors, if you're all in one space. It just is.
Yeah.
You don't have the logistics of trying to move, 100, 200, 300 people between different locations and keeping everybody on the same schedule. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's easier for your guests for sure. I would say like a con though, is that it can be harder if you do want a religious ceremony. Your church may not offer, clergy or whatever who come and officiate at your ceremony. So you might need to find somebody. It just depends. I just found out there's a lot of churches that don't even offer wedding ceremonies, which is interesting.